Hey everyone, Ridden here, and thank you for coming. And today, we're going to be taking a deeper look at the long-awaited sequel to the 1988 cultural blockbuster film, Coming to America. Originally planned to be theatrically released by Paramount Pictures on December 18th of 2020, the distribution rights were eventually sold to Amazon Prime due to the COVID-19 pandemic, where the film was then slated to be released on March 5th, 2021. Directed by Craig Brewer with an original screenplay by Kenya Barris, Barry W. Blaustein, and David Sheffield, here are my thoughts on Coming to America. Welcome back, everyone. 33 years later, it would seem our favorite Zamundan citizens once again have an adventure to embark upon. Directed by John Landis, the original film in 1988 centered upon the Crown Prince of Zamunda, Akeem Jaffer, as he traveled to the United States, accompanied by his royal aide and best friend Semi, played by Arsenio Hall, in hopes of finding a woman with a mind of her own to have as his queen in defiance to the traditional arranged marriages of his kingdom. Having returned back home, marrying a woman of his dreams and jewel of his adventure, Lisa McDowell, daughter of Cleo McDowell, the owner of McDowell's fast food restaurant, not to be confused with his lesser rival McDonald's, as their McFlurby machine actually works. Akeem and Lisa settle into a comfortable royal lifestyle for several decades, having 3 beautiful children, all of whom are girls. This is the point where our plot returns us back to our characters, as the film begins ushering us back into the world we left all those years ago. Getting right into it, I want to first say that, as they did in the original film, this movie did a fantastic job of completely immersing us in the rich culture, lifestyle, and setting of the Kingdom of Zamunda. I love the fresh modern take on the characters as well as the plot and story overall. I know there has been a bit of indifference since the worldwide release and even in the early screenings. But as in all things in life, it is always necessary to push the buck forward. So the decision by Eddie Murphy and co to take the chances they did in certain instances is one that I completely salute. I love the new characters and personality and was also deeply joyed by the return of familiar faces. Most of the original cast returns here, in so much as life and the time passed allowed, and Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall resumed their respective comedic forms in their returns. Side note, was I the only one that noticed the twist on the Paramount Pictures opening? How the camera went over the peak of the mountain, through the fog, and landed on Zamunda? Is this not fresh? Maybe I'm tripping. In regards to the strength of the plot, I will say I wasn't the most fond of the avenue used to get us into the story. I completely understand the lure to want to return to this world and believe the choice to do so was very well intentioned and necessary, but for King Jaffe Joffer to know all this time that Akeem had a son in America as foreseen by Baba, played by Arsenio Hall.
Yes, Your Majesty. His life is far too worthless. His death would make me smile.
Baba.
But decided against telling him doesn't exactly sit well with me and doesn't sound like a decision the reformed father figure we saw at the end of the first movie with the guidance of his queen would have made. When the first movie ended, I always envisioned Akeem and Lisa living happily ever after, eventually ascending to the throne and reigning grandly over a kingdom that loved and revered them. But through the dialogue set up throughout the entire film, we're led to believe that Akeem is perceived to be a weak ruler by all around him, which makes the younger me on the inside a bit sad, to be honest. I wish we'd gotten a bit more rounding out of the Lisa character this time around, as we didn't really see too much of her, and when we did, her lines were canned in their nature, not really giving Shara Heatley a chance to expand upon the personality we fell in love with before. The new additions to the family in regards to the daughters played by Kiki Lane, Keeley Love, and Bella Murphy were solid in their appearances, as their stars shone bright whenever they were on screen, particularly Kiki Lane, as from the onset her presence gave off a certain regalness that played up even more to the overall plot and the strained relationship between her and the
Heir to the throne of Zamunda. My firstborn child.
Akeem brought back from Queens. I did like the additions of Jermaine Fowler, Wesley Snipes, Tracy Morgan, and Leslie Jones to the cast, as their presences throughout the film were always refreshing. Jermaine Fowler bore the weight of both the screen time and responsibility of being the Crown Prince well, and Nomzomo Mbatha's injection as Marimbe was quite the delight. A superstar in her own right already in South Africa, Nomzomo Mbatha comes into this film a new upstart in Hollywood and will definitely walk away from it with tons of new fans. The American film industry and audience may not know her yet, but she is most definitely one of the consistent charms of this sequel. The rush of nostalgia I got every time a character of old made their on-screen entrance sailed me from one scene to the next, and in the in-between times, cameos from the likes of Trevor Noah and Rick Ross were enough to fill the void. Every time Wesley Snipes made an appearance felt like magic, and the father-son chat between Akeem and Cleo was everything I didn't know I needed from this film. As fans of any and all cultural works of art, we tend to have theories and expectations as to how characters will evolve in the time spent away from our gaze. In returning to Zamunda, I believe not seeing our characters in the happily ever after we envision can be a bit jarring. But does life imitate art, or does art imitate life? Rarely do things in our world go completely according to plan, and the detours along the way are oftentimes the most meaningful parts of the journey. In a film that gave us black royalty 3 decades before Ryan Coogler and Chadwick Boseman took up the mantle, Coming to America ran away with our imaginations while also grounding itself in the beauty of the black American experience. In my opinion, the sequel does the original film justice in staying true to the comedy and culture at its core. The absences of certain beloved characters such as the late Emmy Award-winning actress Madge Sinclair and Allison Dean are felt by the audience, but don't take away from the film's brilliance. The additions in new blood made to the production and screenplay writing are noticeable, as Kenya Barris's fingerprints and brand of comedy are readily apparent throughout. Whether this was for the betterment or detriment of the film is for someone else to decide, but in my opinion, the film shone in moments where it stayed true to its original DNA, and not so much, all of the time at least, when it attempted to blend the old with the new. In all, Coming to America is a film I believe must be commended for bringing us back to a much simpler time and place, and giving us another glimpse at characters we long since said goodbye to, while also giving us new ones to embrace. The plot, while simple in nature and possibly flawed in some regards, doesn't ruin the spectacle of seeing greats like Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall, Tracy Morgan, James Earl Jones, Char Healy, Wesley Snipes, John Olmos, Morgan Freeman, and many others all on screen together, and we must appreciate it for that. While there were certain bits of comedy I felt fell flat, there were loads more that didn't, and scenes like the return to the barbershop made me feel like a kid again. It would have been great if Cuba Gooding Jr. was in the chair again with no lines, but it's still more than delivered. By the film's ending, I felt much better about the growth of Akeem's character and the future of his reign, displaying his willingness to change old traditions with the guidance of his daughter Mika. Coming to America isn't the sequel I envisioned all those years when different whispers make their way from the depths of Hollywood to the ears of film fans that a potential follow-up could be in the works. But it's also certainly not the failed TV pilot from 1989 starring Tommy Davidson. I truly enjoyed this film and sincerely hope it makes its way into the annals of black culture. It's not a perfect film, but for me, it was a near perfect experience. And for the moments that made me cringe, they repaid with moments that made me laugh. I would highly recommend this film to you and your family and your friends, as I have already done so to mine, with the caveat of not going into the movie expecting the same magic from the original, but with the open-mindedness of being introduced to a new experience with remnants of the one past. I will be continuing to release reviews for various films and Marvel Disney Plus shows as they are released, and in the coming months will be broadening my content scope even more. And if you feel so inclined, I would love to have you back here to cover it all with us. Again, guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and click that bell for notifications if you've enjoyed our content here tonight. Jump down in the comments and let me know your thoughts. And while you're at it, be sure to check out some of the other content here on the channel. All of the necessary links are listed here below for you to keep up with the coming content and shareables. Please be sure to follow me on all social media platforms. Or just the one you use most frequently. We are slowly but surely building a community here, and I would personally love for you to be a part of that. And last but not least, we have a merch store. So whether you see something you like or just simply want to support the channel, head on over to our shop and grab something. Or grab everything. But again, thank you so much, guys and gals, for visiting here with us today. I really appreciate each and every viewing minute of your time you've given us. There's loads of content we'll be sending your way, so I'll be seeing you. But for now, be blessed. And it was written.
Across the nighttime, the city sleep inside. Yeah, hear her voice, shake my window.